Take It With The Programming. I'm Chase Ingram.
I'm Captain America.
And along with me is Bill Grundler.
Wolverine.
And I pressed the right buttons this time.
Damn, I was going to say you nailed that one, dude. Nailed it. Strong work. Welcome back, dude.
Thank you.
Dang.
Thank you. Did you get a haircut?
Yeah, a while ago. I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know what's happening here, yeah.
I don't know what's going on. I think am I on the right side? You guys let me know.
I think
it looks weird. You look good, dude.
Thanks, man.
Are you wearing like a long sleeve shirt?
Dude, California's weird. I don't know. Yeah, I'm in like a sweatshirtish thing. It's like muggy, kind of tropical. I don't know. I mean, when it's hot here, it's like 82. So what do you want?
I know it's like 100 and something in Texas right now. It is hot.
I'm gonna go see my mom this weekend in Arizona, and it's gonna be it's gonna be a little warm there too.
Nice. Well, it's good to be back. It's good to do this. We haven't done one of these shows in what, like a week, 2 week and a half.
Something like that. Week and a half. I think we were building up to the games, so we didn't do the day of because it was, or the week of because, getting everybody out and traveling and all that kind of stuff. So
yeah. But we re-released all of our old Analyzing the Programming episodes on the podcast platform. So Apple, Spotify, Google, just leading up to the CrossFit Games, which is cool because it was, I don't know, maybe we should do that every year.
I think we totally should. Dude, I've heard nothing but good things about that. Like everyone's like, I think it just really primes everyone to what have we done? What are we going to do? What are the things? What's the way that it's set up? Mm-hmm. And I really, other than people just, for whatever reason, listening to us just babble about the different things. I think it really kind of puts everyone in the right headspace about like, okay, what is being presented? Not just that it's being presented, but what's being presented.
Yeah.
Cool.
And it was cool. It's funny to go back and listen to them too.
Yeah.
Oh man. Because I remember the first couple that we did, I was like, I guess I didn't forget, but I kind of forgot that we didn't even see each other for the first couple. It's like, I'm going to call Bill from the phone and record it on the podcast.
Yeah. But there was a lot of learning that was happening. And I honestly, like, when you wanted to put the whole thing together, the podcast itself, and then started going down all those, I was glad that it was rough and raw and all the ducks weren't in a row, because it was just better to like learn it on the fly and just kind of get busy with it. It was just super fun.
That's what we did. It's like, we had no idea what we were doing. I was like, I think this is the right piece of equipment and where to upload all this. And really this whole podcast stemmed from our love for programming, the CrossFit Games, CrossFit itself, being an affiliate owners and coaches and athletes. And, over the years, it's like, oh man, I don't want the only time that we can talk about CrossFit is if we were like to work together.
Right. I know.
So that was it. So that was cool getting out, but it's good to be back. Games were great. It was just a good vibe out there.
Was there?
Yeah, it was.
It seemed like it. Once I got to the individuals, it seemed like there was. I was building up to that. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah. I felt so bad for the Masters. I really did. But I, for whatever reason, felt like I was fielding a lot of comments. I personally was fielding a lot of comments about that.
Uh-huh.
What I really hope happens and what goes down with that was there were so many angry people for the age groups that they didn't get to see her. It was like this. It was the worst tease of all time to see the field and not be able to see anything.
Right.
But again, like this was such a weird transitional year that's what I kept telling them. Like, look, they know that age group is an important part. I don't think that they're just going to cut them out of the equation completely, especially when they know that, like, the largest group of the people that go into the open and all that have been the age group. So I don't see that being the case, but they had to do some abrupt changes this year. So once they got past that and they got into the normal broadcast with you guys, it was like, oh my God, okay, finally.
Yes. It was a tough year. There's a lot of things that happened this year.
Yeah.
And it's a bummer that they didn't get much coverage, and age group and adaptive And the initial one they got was almost worse.
No, I wish I wouldn't have even showed anything, honestly.
And that's the thing is like, okay.
But then they would have given shit about that. If
Exactly,
they know it.
right?
It's like
And
you're not going to
so-
win in either side. So
Yeah, because if people have a very short memory, is like when they were going to say they were not going to broadcast the semifinal test, everyone was like, just put up one camera so we can see the field. What you're like, how hard is that to do? And then like they're like, okay, here you go. And then they're like, what is this shit?
what is this shit? There's
So-
14,000 people watching that the first day,
I know.
all day.
I know. And the communication of what it was going to be was poor, the communication to the community and the athletes. And it was unfortunate. It's not like what they used to have in the past. And again, they are aware. We are aware
Yeah.
as fans, right? And yeah, hopefully things will get better. I'm curious to see what they do with the Masters and age group division going forward.
Yeah.
Because there's conversations out there in the ether of separating it from the weekend and making you've got the Masters Fitness Collections, you got the Legends Cross Masters Championship. Like you have these entities out there that could potentially run with something like this. I mean, that's a totally different topic of conversation because we'll hit the age group programming later, but we're going to talk about the individuals today.
Yeah.
We'll do teams, age groups, individuals. We'll start with individuals today. We've got a lot to get into. And I'm excited to talk about it because it's funny, and I don't know how you feel about this, but you'll see something on paper, you'll have some type of idea of what it's going to be. But until you see it happen on the field and with the athletes, you really can't judge it fully until you see that. And that happened to me a couple times where I was like, man, I don't know if this is going to be good, or I was like, this is going to be terrible. And I was like, oh, that actually worked out pretty well.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's weird. You know, they always say that they want the race to be the story, not the program or not the athletes, but the actual race itself to be what unfolds and allows itself to unfold. And so that's what's so weird is when you write it on paper, you can't put the storyline on top of it. So you don't see all of these
Oh, that's a good point too.
different, all the emotions and the competition and the race and the athletes of them doing all these different things or how close so-and-so is or, some of the I really thought it was amazing that how many times everyone cried during this games. I'm like, what the hell's wrong with everybody? Suck it up, people. Pull it together, everybody.
And Captain No Emotion over here. Bill Grummer.
So I when you layer all of that on top of the actual, the nuts and bolts of the program, and it's like you're right, it changes that landscape so much. It's really interesting to watch it that way too, because all speculation in the beginning. And like me and you and all of our group are the hardest speculators of all time. Like, I mean, we're making things up, and it would be really cool if it was this, but what about this? And how about this? And here's what this is. And we should be here, and it should be this number event, that number event, before anything even gets going.
Yeah. It was good. And it was fun to see things come out. Some things that, some of your predictions that going in were cool. Some of JR's that came in, some of mine that came in. That was fun to see. I mean, you throw out enough out there in the world, like one of these things are going to land.
Totally. It's like spaghetti. Throw it up on the wall. See what's there.
And so that was cool. And yeah, so for me, someone has asked me how my voice is. My voice is okay. It's good. That was a rough go. And I say rough go as if like being able to talk is anywhere near like anything anyone else goes through on a daily basis. But for what I was doing at the time, it was pretty stressful.
Oh, I bet. Was that you that pulled that, or was that Rothy and the guys? Did they give you the thumbs up, or they're like, you need to get the hell out of there right now because you suck?
Yeah, so it really got bad Friday. Like the whole day Friday was bad. And I was just doing everything I could to get to the end of Friday. And
go through a whole like throat spray thing?
Dude, I went through everything. Like every lozenge, every spray. I went down to the bar and got like hot water and like just poured as much salt in there as possible. And then I get to my room like Friday night. And before I get to there is like, we finished Friday at like 8:30.
Yeah.
And then there's the OG tailgate. And I was like, I have to go to this, but I cannot speak a word. And it's like, this is the worst scenario. And so I went and, you know, Craig Howard and Dale King and Ken Waycaser and like what they put together for that OG tailgate was so incredible. Like, dude, there were so many people there. Freaking Greg Glassman came.
It's rad.
Like, we teased a special guest. It was Greg. It was Greg the whole time. We just didn't want to like overpromise, underdeliver, get people there that just came for Greg, right? Like, you came to be an OG and hang out with OGs. And if you came there, you got to meet Greg. And then when Don Fall came, like, I was like, okay, this, like, something special just happened.
Dude, that made a mark. That made the fact that was the setup, like that made a mark.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is rad.
Yeah, it was cool. So I was like, I have to go. Like, I can't not go to this thing. And so went there, and it's like loud, and I'm trying to talk, and I'm trying to be friendly, but I'm like, I'm dying. Like, my throat hurts so bad. And I get to the hotel, and I'm like doing all these things, and I'm like gargling salt water, and I'm like, now I'm like spitting up blood, like every time I gargle salt water, because it's so stripped and strained.
Yeah.
So that being said, go up Saturday morning, and I think I'm in the car with Rothy, and he's like, ask me how I'm doing. I'm like, I am not good. Like, I have a problem. And so we go in and we sit down, and I sit down with Charlie, Rothy, and Barney. And they come to me first. They're like, hey, come in the office. And I was like, okay. And this is like right before the first production meeting of the day. Like, Boz is about to be there in 15 minutes to talk about the tests. And they're like, hey, what do you think we should do? And I go, without even skipping a beat, I was like, I think you should take me off the broadcast completely today in hopes that I can come back tomorrow. Like, I'm going to leave and I'm going to go to the doctor now. And like, okay. And that was it.
You go to the doctor?
Oh, yeah.
What'd they do?
Dude, they gave me like prescriptions, some like oral steroid thing to like kick whatever it is I had and like pump me full of drugs and like.
Rad.
Dude,
that's cool.
At 2 a.m. on Friday or Saturday morning, I almost went to the ER. Like, I was like, I'm just going to Uber. Like, it was so bad. And I don't know. So then I went to my hotel room. And didn't talk for 24 straight hours. Like,
I know you what you did is you typed like
Yeah.
crazy. I've never seen anyone type so much. Like, my phone was blowing up with how many text messages there were.
And what it was so sad is like I was in my room and I'm watching my laptop, and behind my laptop out the window is the Alliant Energy Center. I was like, oh. But it was great. I got to watch it on YouTube, and then I switched over to ESPN, and that took me a couple tries to get over to the ESPN. That was, it wasn't working. It wasn't CrossFit's fault. It was just stuff. But it was cool. It was
glad
cool.
you made it.
Yeah.
Glad you made
and
it.
Then, it was good. So thank you guys for all your well wishes, and I felt every one of them, and I really appreciate it. So that was really cool. So enough about that.
Let's get to some events, bro.
Let's talk about the good stuff. All right. We are going to start from the top. And I've got this little thing all made up. Can you guys see that? Yeah. If I can blow that up. Mm-hmm. Put this little guy together. And as we work through this, we'll go event by event all the way through. There's a lot of things I want to get to at the end to expand the window of how some people judge programming. For reasons like the biggest thing I heard is like only 2 events with a barbell. I was like, well, there's also no swim, right? Like, I think we're getting too accustomed to certain things, and that's how we judge programming, but we'll get there. All right, event 1, 40 minutes, max laps on the bike. Each lap was, I think, 2,400 meters of biking, 200 meters of running, tight turns. I actually biked the course twice just to get a feel for it, and it was so hard.
Really?
It was so hard, dude. So to give an example, is like, 1, it was just sketchy. like turns on grass. The straightaways on gravel I felt were more sketchy than the actual turns on grass. It was, I mean, like you're riding on pumped up tires and it just, nothing felt solid. And turning through that, and I did a warm up lap just to get a feel for the course. And then I hit the second lap, not necessarily as hard as I could, but about 80, 90%. And it took me about 6 minutes and 15 seconds. And the top guys were doing an average of 6 minutes for the whole 40 minutes. And by that time, one lap was done, I was done. My lungs were on fire. My legs were blown out. Like this thing, like the pace these guys and girls went out on was so irresponsibly fast. It murdered people.
See, I don't. These guys are trained right now. Yeah, but like I don't think that's like it wasn't like people were throwing caution to the wind necessarily. I mean, I think that they settled in. You saw the people that got buried in the beginning and being like, oh, all right, well, yeah, I'm rolling back here. I mean, I liked what it was. I don't think it was nearly as boring as people were wanting to make it, because you could see that there was a lot of play that was going on. I'll have my thoughts about it when we get to the end, though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Starting off bike-wise, we've had other bike events in the past. We've had cyclocross. We've had Pendleton 1. We've had crit. We've had the bike repeater at the 2020 games. We've had in this one. But 40 minutes to kick things off. Monostructural test right off the bat. Test 2. The pig chipper. For time, 10 pig flips, 25 chest to bar pull-ups, 50 toes to bar, 100 wall ball shots, 50 toes to bar, 25 chest to bar pull-ups, 10 pig flips. Pig weight for the men, 510, 345 for the women, 20-pound ball for the men to a 10-foot target, 14-pound ball to a 9-foot target.
Lame.
Right. We don't need to get into how much we don't like any of that. But looking at over here on the side, just to explain some of the things that I have, and I'd like your feedback on this, Bill, is that I really wanted to look at over here, we've got the movements put in their basically modalities, right? Weightlifting, gymnastics, monostructural. And to the side of that, I have what type of movement patterns are within that movement. So for example, the pig flip, actually I didn't even put this in here, regardless of what people think, is like, it's a hinge, a pull from the floor, pull through the middle, and a press overhead. Like those three movement patterns are prevalent within that movement. And to get in really detailed orientation of these movements, that's how much detail I'm going into. Now we know that pull through the middle, basically from knees to get the pig to your shoulders, is the hardest part. It's the most prevalent thing, and that's upper body pulling. But I don't want to discredit the other movements that are within the movement or movement patterns that are within that.
No, that's fine. I kind of was looking at a lot of the same type of thing too. I mean, obviously there's your primary movement piece that's going to be in there.
Right.
With that, just like a deadlift, you're going to be hinging and you're going to be pulling from the ground, and you're going to have that explosive hip to get that thing moving. And then you're going to walk and press that thing over as it kind of flops over, but like you are pushing. So there is that element in there.
Right. And so when we go forward, I just want to explain is like, I'm putting every part of the movement within this with these movement patterns. And I'm just trying to be consistent there so that when we break down at the end of this, like, oh, there's this much pulling and this much pushing, I do want to make sure that every detail and movement pattern being done is a part of the equation, just to be fair. Chest to bar pull-ups, toes to bar, that's pulling. You're hanging from the rig. With the toes to bar, you have that core flexion component to that versus just the pull on the chest to bar pull-up. Wall ball shots, you have a squat and a throw. So you have that squat and press. Then you go back, toes to bar, chest to bar, and the 10 pig flips. Time frame, 14 to 16 minutes was about some of your top 10 elite times on average between the men and women. In the previous one, we had a 40-minute endeavor or 40 plus, depending on how many laps you got through at the end. I did put a critical element in these. I didn't say this for the first one, but cardiorespiratory endurance and leg stamina, I put on the first one, right? What was the thing that was basically the gatekeeper to having a successful or non-successful test? For this one, I put the critical element, upper body pulling strength and stamina, as well as pulling gymnastics volume.
Yep.
As the crux. Like, it wasn't the wall ball shots.
No.
Did you have enough on the back end and strength to do the pig flips? It was a big part of this. But if you didn't have the middle piece or you had bad upper body stamina, you were just going to be bad at this.
Yeah.
How'd you like this overall?
I did. What I really liked was I didn't really like the race until after they came off the wall balls.
Yeah.
Because it really
big buy-in.
It really didn't matter. I mean, like, nobody was trying to win the first set of the pig flips, because who cares? You got, chest bar pulls, which they all can do. Not a big deal. It was when you got to that back half, and what was awesome, what made me like the race was seeing people. I mean, when we were all texting all the, the big dick move. The big move, and that's what made the event fun for me, as watching it, was that who had the ability to go from all of that buy-in to jump in and grab that pig and then move that thing, not to where, and it was especially on the women's side, where you could see Annie Thorisdottir, that I mean, she's such an insane athlete in all the capacity that she has. And she's up there in the front, and Laura Horvath just comes and walked. I mean,
dude,
blew right by her, and all Annie could do was sit there and watch. And I thought that element in there, showing the explosiveness, showing the capacity that you have to be able to have that level of explosiveness, was awesome. That element made the event for me. That from that point, I was like, oh, that's cool.
And because of that, when you look at the beginning, like, the first 10 is like, okay, how are these pigs going to feel? Because they're not in the warm-up area.
Yeah.
These are not things very many people have at their gym. If they do, it's because they bought it maybe 5 years ago. These aren't sold by Rogue. They're like, these are all the ones that are available.
Yeah.
Right. And then seeing how people navigated the front half. Okay, how do I let the moment take a hold of me on 25 chest to bar pull-ups when I know I can do 50?
Right.
And I do too big of sets, or the toes to bar? Or do I disrespect the wall balls that had really no game-changing impact on the event unless you made it one?
Right.
And there was never, and I mean game-changing in a positive. There was no positive advantage you would have trying to make the 100 wall ball shots a part of your strategy to get ahead of anybody.
Right. And that's what I thought was cool about it, because the numbers really, I think, for athletes that aren't as high end as these athletes are, they would all be trying to look to go unbroken on all of those, because, like, well, I have to get out there. And it's like, and you just effed yourself. 100%. 25 chest bar pull, old guy would if I saw 25 chest bar, I'm like, okay, done, I'm broken. Like, I wouldn't even be thinking about that. So it's cool to see that there was that strategy element to it, who would get baited into it. But I, like, literally the last 3 movements made the race for me.
It was awesome. And what Laura, like you said, what Laura Horvath did, getting to the pig behind a couple athletes, and it's just like, boom, boom, boom. I was like, oh my, I mean, my excitement said it all. I pretty much lost my mind.
Right.
So that was, that was cool. But yeah, okay. So 14 to 16 minute time frame. We've got we got weightlifting and gymnastics work together in this chipper style format, coming off the bike. Test 3 to end day number 1. We have the gymnastics skills chipper. 30-foot unbroken handstand walk over a ramp, 8 freestanding handstand push-ups done in 4 rep sections about 30 feet in length. Unbroken stairs to a dismount, 16 bar pullovers, and then the pirouette onto the 20-inch box, down the stairs, 8 freestanding handstand push-ups down, and a 30-foot unbroken handstand walk over the ramp. This is the most juiced-up handstand walk course we've ever had.
I mean, dude, what else are you going to add to this?
Well, I would say, if we're going to go a gymnastics skills test. And I think JR had mentioned this, is that, the monostructural Venn diagram thing they put out there was a 1 movement test. The weightlifting part of the Venn diagram was a 2 movement test. And he's like, how cool would it be if the gymnastics portion of the Venn diagram was a 3 movement test? It's like, that's great. That's good for my OCD.
Totally.
The numbers, you think push, pull, squat. And we didn't get the squat portion of this. That being said, what do you think about the pullovers being in there?
I have a new, I guess, a rule or standard that I like to live by now when we're looking at elite level athletes. And if it's something that my 8-year-old daughter can do, I don't think it's something that should be tested and raced myself.
Okay.
I get it, but I see that as a skill in the gym rather than something that is worthy of being raced, honestly. I wasn't a fan of it. I get it. I know that it's in our literature of things to have, but also when a lot of that stuff was being written, it wasn't about, it was kind of in the, you should be able to do all kinds of things. But I just think that like racing a pullover, I didn't think it had a place. This event, honestly, I wasn't really a fan of the event.
Okay. Is the pullover like toes to rings for you as it is for me?
For you, yeah, totally.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That's fair.
Yeah.
I mean, if it were toes to rings on this end, I'd be like, this is worthless.
Yeah. I mean, it's not something. I'm not disagreeing with the movement. Like, I don't have a problem with any movement, but when you're going to be racing particular movements, it just gets weird. And I think this event as a whole, to me, is one of those events that's like, okay, well, let's try this and let's see if we can make this work. And like, we're talking like handstand push-up, ring handstand push-up type of thing.
Yeah.
Does it work? Can we make it work? Well, we got to try it. We got to see it at some point. And to me, this was a trip.
Okay.
I wasn't a fan of how it was set up. Yeah. I mean, even I just think this bordered on like circus playtime, I think, rather than competitive race.
For sure. Boarded.
Yeah.
I didn't dislike it as much. It is, once I talk about toes to rings, I was like, okay, that's kind of close. I can see, I do not disagree with you. I didn't mind it. I looked at it more of, okay, is it a pretty basic skill on the bar once you figure it out? Yes. So is handstand walking once you figure it out. But then when I saw some athletes who were struggling on it, I was like, oh, whoops.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but
I saw it too is like, I was like, okay, is it a pulling movement that's really going to tax people if they can't do it? No. Most people broke because they were getting dizzy.
Yeah.
Not because they couldn't do 16. And then I was like, okay, well, is this in there to disrupt their balance and coordination on the way down? Okay. Is that sure? Whatever. I would have.
Okay, but if that's the case, then why not have the baseball bat right in the middle where you put your head on it and spin around 6 times?
Okay, you make it back.
So with this, to me, is one of those events. Like, I didn't like this event, the way it programmed or the race or whatever. What I thought was interesting though was there were elements of me enjoying the race, watching some of the athletes have to do the thing, but that's just purely me going, oh man, watch this, or wow, they spun around easy on that pirouette. They made that look super easy. Or, the freestanding handstand push-ups, bam, boom, like it's almost like they were walking, doing squats kind of thing for some of the athletes. So I think that made it more fun, but still, like when I was coming back and I was looking at all this on paper and I'm just like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope. That was just me. That's just my opinion.
Sam,
thanks, Sam. Thanks, Sam. I agree with you. I would agree with you agreeing with me.
He says anything pre-2007 based off like our 100 words of fitness wasn't designed with competition in mind. Some of it's great for racing, but not everything is. I actually think that's a very good point, Sam.
Yeah.
Because all of these metrics and things that we point to is like, hey, fitness in 100 words. It has pirouettes and press to handstands, and we'll bring that into competition. He's like, well, hey, Greg said this 20 years ago. He's like, yep, but the games weren't even in existence.
Yeah, the idea of competition was only who you're with in the gym and can you walk on your hands further than who's next to you in the gym.
That's a great point. A great point, because a lot of times I'll do that is I'll reference old material and be like, hey, look, it's been around, but it's like, yeah, but this was never made for competition. So that's cool. Good point, Sam. Good.
Sam. Good job.
What if they did a backwards roll to support on the rings instead?
If they would, I think honestly, it would make more sense to me, I guess. But that would be one of those things that I think you would have to tell athletes ahead of time.
Fair.
Or even like a back, not the back roll, but like when you do what's it called? A back support where you basically are keeping back up the other way.
Oh yeah.
So instead of kipping up forward, having the forward kick and pop in the hips, you on the back swing, pop your butt up, and then you press it from there. I mean, if they're going to do a level of like that on the rings, cool. I mean, fine. And I actually like that a little bit better because there is a skill component to that, a coordination component to that for sure.
Yep.
But it would be something that I think you would have to tell athletes ahead of time so that they could at least have that. Well, let me try it. Because I think then you have one type of athlete that they're going to get in if you're like, well, I've never spun myself, or we weren't allowed to do it, to spin myself around or whatever. Of course, then I got my 8-year-old daughter over here, she can do it. It's like, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah,
I get it. Or just put pegboards in there or something. But
or just do 30 bar muscle ups and then 30 ring muscle ups for time.
Or that's another conversation. Maybe we'll do that when we record. It was an interesting skills test. 3 to 5 minutes or 4 to 5 minutes is your time frame here. Pure gymnastics. Interesting place to put it in the weekend based off what we have coming.
Yeah.
But all right. Event 4, alpaca redo or redux. If you're someone who doesn't speak English.
Redo.
I have heard a few times during my time there. 126-foot sled push with 6 kettlebells on the sled, dropping 2 kettlebells each 42-foot length. And then 3 rounds for time, 2 seated legless climbs, 12 kettlebell clean and jerks at 70s and 53s, sled push, add your kettlebells all the way back down. This thing was a monster. An absolute monster of an event.
It was one of my absolute favorites of the weekend.
It was so great.
To me, this is what our level of elite level athletes should be battling in. Like the gymnastic pool, it's not that a legless rope climb is hard, but the way that they had to do it was hard. I love that. The sled push that they had to do was heavy. Those kettlebell cleans, the clean jerks are so awkward doing that. If you have not done that, you can't understand how easy they made that look.
Yeah.
I mean, and it is not easy, but I loved every single piece of it. What was crazy is that as I'm watching it and I'm like loving it so much, all I could do was look back to the last year and be like, damn, like I'm so bummed that it didn't get to happen last year.
Yeah.
It was that good. It was that good.
Yeah. Okay. I'll address this before. Get over that there wasn't swimming at the CrossFit Games. All of you. It's fucking swimming. And no one says it's not essential. And I'm using you as a sacrificial lamb, Lido. But get over it. It's like, why don't they do this thing at the games every year? Because they've done it every year. If they don't do double unders in the open next year, you're going to say it's a shitty test because they've had double unders in the open every year. Like, it doesn't have to be the same things every year. And no one made the parallel difference between swimming isn't an essential part of testing fitness. They just didn't do it this year. So all you guys are like, oh, I trained so hard for swimming. Get over it.
Well, good. You should have.
You should have. And guess what? It's not even the fact that you got better at swimming. You have no idea the adaptiveness you're going to get, the adaptation from swimming, where your cardiovascular endurance, the way you process like fatigue in your muscles, the way you learn how to control your breathing and your heart rate under fatigue. Swimming is going to make you better at fitness, period. Better than most, if not all, monostructural movements out there. It'll get you better shape than running, rowing, biking. Swimming is one of the best things you can do to improve your cardiorespiratory endurance, period. But the fact they didn't have to do it at the games does not mean it's a bad thing. Get over it. They've been doing it every year since 2011. They should take a year off every once in a while.
Actually, they definitely should, because they don't want you to know what's coming up.
Exactly. Dave programmed an entire year of the CrossFit Games, from open, regionals, and CrossFit Games with no burpees. Where were you guys then? You're probably fucking pumped.
That's because no one likes burpees.
Exactly. So if you guys are coming out and just being like, the game sucked and the program is shitty because there's no swimming, you have no right to speak for the rest of this podcast. You do not know what you were talking about. Jesus. Yes.
And that's coming from a swimmer, you guys. I mean, come on. We all know that like the swimming is cool. We like to see it in there. It's an absolute important thing, but because it's not there doesn't mean that the entire test of fitness was misguided and incomplete.
Yes. Don't change the subject. Just take your L and be quiet. Okay. Sorry. No, I'm not. I'm glad we got the alpaca again. I think it was one of the best tests of the weekend. It wasn't my favorite test. I have one later, but this was top. It was top one. I'm so glad they came back. I remember when it first came out, it was one of those, I was like, oh man, all right, yeah, of course we're doing it again. But now they did it. I'm like, man, I'm so glad we did that again.
Hell yes, dude. And it
looked glad we did that again.
Like, okay, if you think back to last year, it's amazing how different the event was without the rope in it last year.
Oh, when people were like, oh, it's close. It's like, it's not even close.
It's not even close.
Not even close.
No.
And then the fact that Roman freaking still crushed it and Laura still freaking crushed it, hopefully shut up everybody who was like complaining that they got like a wheelhouse test to get onto the podium.
Yeah, they're great athletes. That's the wheelhouse.
That's why they're so, it didn't matter. It didn't matter. But what was cool is to see, and I'll give this credit to Justin Kotler, who was upset the rope climbs weren't in there because he thought his athletes would do better.
Yeah.
Gazan went from 21st to 3rd.
Yeah. Because
of those.
Yeah.
And honestly, she could have won the damn thing if her shoes stayed on.
Oh, dude, I was so bummed. So bummed on a competitive level and then on a meme level. I've never seen so many memes come out of that.
Oh, and it was wild too. It was like what? On the women's side, 4 or 5.
Passed her right up.
I want to say 5 women finished.
Yeah.
Out of 40, which is crazy. It just shows you how hard those rope climbs got. Because that's what it was. It was the critical element here is that we put in there as we move on is upper body pulling strength, stamina. And I put leg stamina.
Oh,
because if you watch those people try to push that sled ate people alive.
Yep.
And it was great. Great. Jake Chapman, what is your smart question?
He's got all kinds of things like that.
Would you rather never wear baseball caps ever again or never cut your hair ever again? I don't really understand that question. Never wear a baseball. I'm fine never wearing a baseball cap again. I actually just started wearing baseball caps recently, so. But you guys don't know that. Okay, moving on. 13 to 15 minutes is that test time frame. Classic CrossFit time frame. Weightlifting. In gymnastics. Throw the jog in there. That's not really part of it. Event 6, ski bag. And this 30 cal ski, 30 sandbag squats at 200 pounds and 125, 20 cal ski, 20 squats on the sandbag. I think Friday was the most like kick in the dick day of the weekend.
Yeah.
Alpaca, this, and then finishing with Helen.
Yeah.
Alpaca is like, hey, we're just going to beat the shit out of you for 13 to 15 minutes. Some of you for 18, and you won't finish. This one was brutal. And it was honestly great.
Great. It was so good.
Great.
It was so good.
Watching people implode. And I don't think you guys understand how heavy and awkward a 200-pound sandbag is. To just get it up to your shoulder and then squat with it with only one hand after what they just went through, including the day before. Their legs are shot from the bike. Their legs did 100 wall ball shots for them, whatever, broke it up 10s and 5s, no big deal. But coming off Alpaca in that sled push and then coming to this, oof.
Yeah, they don't like they're ass cheekless at this point. That sled,
Ass cheekless.
it's like they just dropped their butt cheeks and left them all out on the floor, and they have to come out here and do this really awkward. And it's weird because if you watch the way that they squatted, it's an awkward squat. Like you're off kilter, you're leaning forward, you're doing this weird balancing thing. So it's, 200 pounds for these athletes or 125 pounds for these athletes to squat is not a difficult thing, but it's that weird. I mean, they're leaning sideways. It's kind of cranked on their back, kind of, toward behind their neck if they can do it.
Right.
If you watched, and granted, there was a lot of talk about reps that weren't bad or that weren't good and whatever. I mean, you can only tell what you can tell from the camera, but you could see how people's bodies were actually turning.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like when you see people do a single arm overhead squat with like a dumbbell or a kettlebell, and they do that weird where like one knee kind of turns in and their whole body's turning just to get down, and one toe's up and the other leg's flat. Everyone was all twisted. Yeah. But I think that I love that, and I loved the fact that it forced when people put the bag down.
Mm-hmm.
They knew the second that they're putting it down that they're basically giving up places.
Oh yeah.
I mean, in the way that it's like you could see the verbal talk going on in their head as it's happening. Like, okay, I got a no rep. Shit. Okay, another no rep. I can't do it. Boom.
Yeah.
And then just turning around and watching everybody and just being like, I can't move.
Dude,
I can't pick it up.
And the movement down the floor, that was set up nice.
Yeah.
The skipping squares at the end was a little confusing. Obviously, that a couple athletes got confused. They could have done that better, but
yeah.
What I liked here is 4 to 5 minute time frame on this one. On the ski, I put pull and core as far as flexion.
Yeah, 100%.
And then on the sandbag squats, Sam just said this. Like the core and pull from the ski erg is going to smoke the one thing that is going to stabilize the bag,
right,
for the squats. And the fact that it went 30, 30, 20, 20, which is basically no break. Like, if anybody's done a 30, 20, 10, that round of 20 feels barely any different than the round of 30.
Right.
It's not even necessarily a break. But what I loved about it is that it was enough reps taken off that they couldn't back off.
Totally.
And like you said, is like you put the bag down and then it's done. And yeah, people are chatting about Colton Mertens. That was awesome. Dude. The cheers that guy got, and he was just a piston on that. Like, he's squatting a bag bigger than he is.
He's such a he's the quietest, beastly dude. It's crazy.
Yeah. Little, this is a good question. Thank you for making up for your previous one. Do you think that women should have fewer cows or a longer time cap? Maybe. The fact that they went 125 instead of 200, I think, offsets the cows there.
I agree with that.
In testing, they'd done 150, and it was just too heavy. And once you saw 125 out there and what it was doing, like 125 was plenty. But it is 2 back-to-back events where we have 5 people
yeah,
make the time cap. So I would say extend the cap a minute.
Just that would have been plenty.
Yeah,
That would have
extend
been
the cap a
plenty.
minute, give everybody a taste. Lito, you have redeemed yourself. Welcome back. 5 women, and to your question, 5 women finished ski bag of, again, 39 or 40 taking the test. The men, I think only, let's see, 28 got under the cap, which is, I mean, we're talking the CrossFit Games. That's going to happen. But yeah, maybe an extra minute just so everybody gets a taste of it.
Right.
Everybody gets a taste. But this was great. This is great. Okay, and then going into test 6, we have Helena, or Helena, if you are Jason Kalipa. Did you hear us talking about that on the podcast?
You mean Helena?
This is the best moment, and this is when we kind of like all agreed that it was Helena. He's like, "You've got Helen." We're like, "Yes."
And you got
Then what's the A? I was like, Helena. 3 rounds for time, 400 meter run, 12 bar muscle ups, 21 alternating dumbbell snatch at 50 and 35. I will say right off the bat before this even started, I thought the dumbbell weight was too light. I thought that would be a problem. I know why it was supposed to be light. The alternating also made me nervous. Once that thing went underway, it was fine. Like I thought it was going to be like a judging nightmare and people like getting short. It's like, yeah, were they all perfect? No, but everybody's racing. It happens in every test, in every event. I thought this was good. I liked the speed. I would have preferred it just in the normal order. Run, dumbbell, rig. But previous versions I saw of this were way worse. And I'm glad they started with the run. That's all I'll say. It's not Helen if you don't start with the run. Now, they started with the run, and the races at the end were great. And what Jeff Adler did in this, like, go home and try this. And then when you're done with your second round, know that Jeff was probably done.
Oh man, he was. It was so good to see him just confidently executing his strategies. It was just awesome. He's such a beast. I liked the event. I thought it was good. I still would have rather seen either a double dumbbell or a bar.
Yeah.
Just for
or
that.
A double light kettlebell. I know that got thrown around.
I have a hard time with this level of athlete doing the 50 and the 35. They might as well do a 10 pound and a 5 pound. Like, it's going to move the same. You know what I mean? Like, I just don't think it's going to affect or have a level of effect is that much. But you know, it was a fun event. And this again, when I see it, when I watched it, the races were exciting, which makes, when I go back and look at the program, I'm like, oh well, it was actually fun to watch. There were some fun things that were happening. But if I go just to the numbers, like I really am not a fan of just that lightweight snatch on this. I just have a hard time with that. But that's one of those elements, totally.
Right. And that's one of the things where I let off is like things I did not like on paper. Yeah. And was really worried about. And then once it unfolded, I was like, okay, that worked out. That worked out well. But yeah, I still would have rather seen.
When you say well, let me ask you this. When you say it worked out well,
we got great races. There was no drama outside the event that was taking place.
Okay.
Right? It wasn't like everyone's reps were dog shit and the judges were terrible and like, you know, things that we're accustomed to complaining about, right? Other than what happened on the floor between the athletes, right? We got some good stuff.
And I think this is Sam, dude, coming up with some good questions, good comments right here. I think that's totally true. And I think that's probably exactly why they did that. Which would have lended me to thinking that they would have had a barbell for that.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Or a missed opportunity to show the variants that you can use with kettlebells.
Totally.
We had 2 heavy hang clean and jerks in the morning. And then in the evening, we finished with 2 light hang snatches.
Yeah, totally.
So, dude, how cool would it have been if it was 21 hang snatches with like 35s and 26s? Just ripping.
I mean, if you...
ripping.
What's lame and weird is that we both you and I are excited about how cool it would be to see how fast that was when we're looking at this, and it's like it's just the super fast thing too.
Mhm.
You know what I mean?
Right,
But
right.
like this one to me, I'm like, no. But to see double kettlebell snatches,
Yeah.
I'd be stoked on that.
Or use dumbbells.
Or yeah, do that even.
Yeah. But okay, so we'll pause here. We've come to 6 events. We are now cutting the bottom 10. Bike test to start. And I look at it this way, and I would love your feedback on this. I boiled down, I would say oversimplified, the type of tests that we have. I have 4 different things I look at. One that is a monostructural dominant or single modality, weightlifting or gymnastics dominant or single modality, and what I like to call just classic CrossFit. Just a classic CrossFit test. So, for example, event 1, bike, monostructural test.
Yep.
Event 2, pig chipper, CrossFit. Event 3, gymnastics skills. Okay, that one's gymnastics. Event 4, alpaca, CrossFit. Event 5, ski bag, I put weightlifting. It was a weightlifting dominant test. It was just the bag and power output.
Power output for
Power
sure. Yeah,
and weightlifting, right?
Yeah.
So I skewed that more towards a weightlifting bias test.
Okay.
Right? And then event 6, Helena, CrossFit. So in 6 tests, we've had 1 dominated in every single modality, dominated critical element for 3, and 3 CrossFit tests. And we are cutting the bottom 10.
I'd agree with that.
Do you think these cuts and these tests that they have were appropriate? Based on
yeah, I do. I think that
bottom 10.
Yeah, totally. I mean, the only thing that I think that I would change, and I haven't really sat down to really think about where I'd really want it, is I think that the gymnastic that particular one is it's a weird event with some weird movements.
Very specific.
And maybe push that to when you get to the final 20. Have that in that race against those athletes, rather than making it something that it's like, well, fuck, I've never done a pullover before, and now I'm going to get cut before that. Yeah, but other than that one comment, I totally agree. I think that front half, we hit what we needed to hit, I think.
Bottom 10. For the gymnastics, I'm with you, because it was execution-based failure as being a part of the test, where nothing else really required that.
Totally.
Right? So I do believe that that gymnastics event was heavier or more detrimental than testing a skill versus maybe fitness.
Yeah, and I think that the appropriate place to put that would be towards the end when you're not worrying about cutting anybody.
Or like a Saturday, right?
Or right.
Now I heard this too, is like the complaints of, how are you going to make a cut before you even use a barbell? We never lifted heavy. All right.
500 and whatever pounds.
Yeah, let's go through this. Test 2, the pig weighs 510 pounds, 345 pounds, and you flip that bitch 20 times. Did they not get a chance to lift heavy?
Did you not see athletes get smoked at how heavy it was? How it stopped them dead in their tracks?
Alpaca. That sled loaded up with more weight than the pig weighed, and they had to push it the length of the field, down and back, along with clean and jerks. That wasn't heavy. Those kettlebells weren't heavy. The ski bag, 50 squats at 200 pounds and 125 at about as fast of a pace as you can go before the wheels come off. That wasn't heavy. So before we get to no barbell, no heavy strength test, let's sit back and evaluate what was actually going on here. If you can't make the top 30 with 3+ opportunities of strength testing, you don't belong in the top 30. Your fitness ain't there. So,
yeah, I totally agree with that. What was interesting is when you go back and look at all of the events, you can't say that they didn't lift heavy, but it was like odd object stuff. It's odd,
Right.
out of the classic gym setup, but it's still testing the same strength, and everyone is put on the same plane with that. That's what I
Right.
think is great about that.
And by our definition of strength, it tested strength.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. Yeah. And it was interesting looking about that. Even with the the way, like, we're talking about, power output and legs use and all that kind of stuff. Like, what was everybody talking about on the bike? They're talking about how their legs were blown up.
Yeah.
Like, that wasn't just like the crit. You're like a road cyclist and you're doing whatever. Like, the way that they were having to bounce from the constantly changing
Dude, it was so hard.
their speed and their velocity
Elevation
with the
changes,
turns, the
down and up.
elevation turn, having to get off and run. Like, there was a lot of leg use that we used on that. It just wasn't classic squatting necessarily, all the way through. But no, there was a lot of strength testing for sure.
Yeah. So I just wanted to put that out there before we move on to day 3. But okay, so I think the programming up to this point was appropriate for the cuts.
Yep.
And after seeing the cuts, how are your feelings on the cuts now?
I was fine with it, and I was fine with it because it's like, well, there's always going to be an element of me that wants to have all the athletes are there.
Yeah,
make them all race. Like, it's not going to change it, but at this point, it was like, okay, I knew that they were there, so it's like, okay, it was an appropriate place to cut. Fine.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to. I won't argue with it.
I love watching everyone compete. I like seeing more people take these tests. Right?
Yeah.
But I get it. I think it's the same thing.
No,
All
totally.
Right. Okay, Saturday. What we thought the whole Venn diagram was going to be about, and almost was starting off with a 5,000 yard run.
Poor CrossFit. I mean, come on, guys. Stop kicking yourself. It's like, how many times are you going to go and kick yourself in your own nuts? Like, seriously.
It's like when you can bring your heel up and hit yourself in the nuts, and then you're flexible enough to go and just kick yourself in the face afterwards.
I mean, I've never, like, there's been a long time since CrossFit. I mean, probably since till the Open, that they have pushed the community to put your scores in and come and do the run with us and put your scores get it in the app. You got to put it in. But hey, if you're here, we're going to do only 5,000 yards. And over here, you're going to do 5,000 meters because, it's just different. But we marked it out. I got my roller.
This is where freedom units failed us. And here's the thing. If it was just the games,
then who cares?
Who cares? But
nobody would have said anything.
1,000 people on site running the course, and everyone is PRing their 5Ks, and teams are running like sub 18-minute 5K. When I heard the teams times, I was like, there is no way in hell that this is a legitimate 5K course.
Nah.
And it turns out that it was 5,000 meters, not 5,000 yards.
Yards, yeah.
Not 5,000. But did it affect the end of the competition for what we're here for? No. Does everybody have a false sense of their fitness level based off their 5K time that was at the CrossFit Games? Absolutely.
Yeah, totally.
No, might need to retest that benchmark. That being said, 5K run to kick off Saturday. Hits differently than the bike. If anybody's done bike races and things like that, similar half the time, basically. Less than half the time. Not as, I would say, detrimental as the bike was. It's just a different test.
I think, yeah. No, there was, when you have the bike, and this is one of the issues with any of the times that we've had bike races, is there is a technical component to it, whether it's switching gears, it's understanding how to go into turns, it's understanding, drafting and what you need to do with that draft, or how is that draft going to work? Are you going to be able to have that? Whereas in running, it's like, okay, all these athletes run. Mm-hmm. They all know how to run. Okay, maybe you're going to have people that are more opposed running. And I mean, it is funny how we still have a lot we have people that are copying Jason Khalipa's running style. It's really funny that's still the case, but they're still fast as hell, but like it's running. They can all run. There isn't, other than I'm going to beat you because I'm faster, not I'm going to beat you because I fell or I dropped a chain or, the gears didn't go right or like all of those other things. And that as much as I, I don't have a problem with the bike being in there, but that element, I hate it when it's something outside of the fitness, a variable outside the fitness that affects your score. Fair. That kills me. I hate that.
That's fair.
So,
Caden, first to compete on it, apparently I ran a 6-minute mile my first lap. I was so
way to go, Studley.
I got to meet him, by the way.
Did you? Did you get a picture?
We got a picture. Caden, we got a picture, right? Yeah, I think we got a picture. I met him and his dad.
Nice.
Okay, and then I know everybody's shitting on Hinshaw with his comedy. It's like, I heard they measured 3 times.
They just told him that.
But he didn't walk it himself. He's like, hey. And they're like, hey, we measured this 3 times. And he's just telling them what they saw. So give that guy a break.
And they also, I mean, like in our ears, we also have other people that are kind of helping us with things. So they're probably said like, hey, tell them how much this course is. It was measured 3 times.
Yeah. So,
just didn't hit the little unit mark.
Yeah, they're like,
the little wheel.
They thought it was a K and it was
a
Y.
They did take the wheel 3 times.
Yeah, they did it 3 times. They just did it wrong. So all joking aside, 5K run to kick off Saturday, which I hoped was single modality Saturday. It ended up really being that. It was close, but not quite. Okay. Number 8, we have the interval test, 21 box jump overs at 24 and 20 inches, 15 cal row, 9 burpee box jump overs at 48 and 36. Do that twice. Rest until the 6-minute mark, and then do it in reverse, 9, 15, 21, 9, 15, 21. When I look at this, and I look at, first of all, interval test, this type, jumping over, like this was just a go. Like who can go, who can hang on, who can move the most efficiently. In those high boxes is where like people separate themselves a lot. Like Pat Bellner.
Did you see the way that those guys have you guys never tried to jump over? I saw techniques that were like
people that were like,
you're not going fast doing it that way, like, dude.
Bobbling on their knees across.
Yes.
Like, what are you doing?
It was so weird.
Oh yeah, but Pat Bellner, like, dude, Starsky and Hutch, hood slide,
totally.
Freaking awesome. And then Emma Lawson just like put it down.
Yeah, she was.
And I like this. I like the jumping into the row, into the burpee box jump overs, doing that twice and resting and going back. Like nothing here was too hard to do. It was all about power output, effort, and your willingness to just trust your body and to go for it. I liked that. Where I don't like is where this is put. I would have much rather had this.
Yeah, put this in the gymnastic and the gymnastic on this one.
Thursday night gymnastics test. Move the gymnastics one here.
Totally.
And then you have single modality Saturday.
Yeah.
Because this is still heavily gymnastics. It's, 84 box jump overs. It's 36 burpee box jump overs.
Yeah.
Like you have over 120 of the 180 reps that are all gymnastics and then the row. This is a good gymnastics-y interval like test. A lot of it gymnastics. It would have been great for Friday. Put it on Friday. Put that on ESPN. Put that race on there. Not a bunch of like party tricks that the world cannot.
We should not. The last thing we should do is put our party tricks on TV.
No.
Right? The last thing we should do.
Put us racing. Roman getting an extra box jump and then skipping all that drama we got to see.
Yeah.
Let's see that. And so that's my biggest thing here is like, this is a good interval test. It was nothing overly difficult. It was more about effort and execution than anything. I like it top to bottom. A good combo of movement patterns, jumping through the middle, leg pull through the row, and then a burpee press off the like great. Why do we have it on Saturday? We got 2 other single modality tests. Take that freaking gymnastics one and put it right here. And then I'm really loving things. I'm still really enjoying everything by this time, but my biggest problem for this is the order. That's it.
Totally. Well, so I have two. One is the order, because I agree with what you're saying on there. I would have much rather had the gymnastics further down, and this would have been a great place to switch, because if you looked at the time that it took the athletes to do like the 2 rounds before they took the break, you're looking at about the same amount of time that the gymnastic piece would have been taking.
Yeah.
So like, and so that's first part. The second part is my issue with this one is I didn't like the fact that it was everybody rests until the 6-minute mark and then starts again.
Oh, okay. Would you give them like a designated, like you only get?
You get, when you're done, you get 2 minutes from your time. You have to wait 2 minutes.
Cool.
Because that first part, like it was a buy-in, like it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Because look at like Pat Vellner, what did he get, like 7:40 or something on this event? He started at 6 minutes.
Right.
So he was done like in what? Relaxing on the first part for the first 3. He did 3 minutes, got to rest.
No, they did add your time together.
They did put the 2 together?
Yeah, they added your time together.
Okay.
Yeah. So you would get more rest than someone who went slower, but your score was your
okay. I don't think I heard them say that. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Does that change it?
Yeah, because then it matters. Because I want it all to matter. I want it all to matter. So that's fine. So yeah.
The gymnastics medley was on ESPN.
Yeah, bad. But I like this event. I love the pieces.
Yeah,
I loved it. It was fun.
Lito, another question. Do you think Boz put it there on purpose before the Ollie lifting?
Which one?
This
one?
Yeah. I mean, yes, because they want the lifting Saturday night. That's kind of their thing. But if
it would have been better with gymnastics.
We take the 5K run Saturday morning with their whole.
Why even put the fucking Venn diagram? Is this their gymnastic test?
Why even do the Venn diagram? It's not on the same damn day.
Like, I don't understand. Like, I'm having a hard time understanding the purpose of that Venn diagram, other than just throw something out there and make people talk weightlifting.
Marketing plan of like monostructural gymnastics, weightlifting, CrossFit in the middle. Check out this shit, and it's like, fuck it. We're just gonna put it.
We're gonna put our events where we want to put them.
Like, how great would it have been if? Look, like we just said, this is a gymnastics heavy test. There's so much jumping and getting over the box. You could have replaced.
I mean, okay, are they? Is that, you think that's what they're saying? This is their Venn diagram?
No, because if they do that, then I'm going to even lose my shit even more, because there's fucking rowing in this.
Maybe they are. Who knows?
I'm getting heated. Hold on. Bear with me. You take this and you put it on ESPN Thursday night.
Yes.
In the world, you've all seen people jump on boxes and row and then go hard, and we have time to tell stories because there's rest time and highlights and drama.
In every other little fitness program, let me jump in. Every other fitness program does those things. Yes. Now they get to see the best in the world do them.
Yes.
So your little boot camp, whatever, they're like, hey, Barbara, we do that too at Billy Bob's boot camp. Yeah, but watch these guys go.
Exactly. Okay. Jeez. So now you take off this dog and pony show of gymnastic skills that nobody in the world watching ESPN can understand or watch us fail. Looks stupid. Now you do running in the morning, lower body, dominant, cardiorespiratory endurance test. And then you get inverted in the middle where it's upper body, skills tests. Boom. And then you come back at night and you lift some heavy weights where you use everything we just tested that day. And you've got a single modality monostructural test, and you've got a single modality gymnastics test, and you have a single modality weightlifting test, and now you cut to 20. Because if you can't make the top 20 out of these specialized filters, then you don't belong in the top 20.
Right.
Because
we did your CrossFit stuff. Right. And here's the specialty stuff.
Thank you.
Sorry.
No. Jinx. Buy me a kill cliff.
Or yeah.
And the reason I'm frustrated is because it doesn't change what the programming was. I like everything that we're doing. But you had the perfect opportunity to paint this beautiful picture of what CrossFit is in the first 2 days. I just said we had 3 single modality dominant tests. And you can count this interval as the gymnastics one. Dominant, not the same, right? Ski bag, weightlifting dominant, had rowing in it.
Yeah.
Right? But it was dominant. The bike, dominant in monostructural. this dominant. And then we had our 3 classic crosses: pig chipper, alpaca, Helena. Great. What a great 6. And then we switched to single modality filters in arenas that are a tip of the cap to the specialists we steal from every day. And we salute you and we show you we can do it too on 3. And then you have your Venn diagram and it's perfect. Every event could come up with the Venn diagram. And when the event's over, you do this like fill-in graphic. All right.
Putting all the events in their appropriate circle.
Like CrossFit Games burns through the middle or some shit like that. Like,
which again, you'd have to make the CrossFit a lot bigger than that little tiny dot that was set up.
But dang, man, like what we could have.
Again,
cool. Like all 3 like went into the middle like a circle, and then the CrossFit filled it up.
Yeah.
We missed it. Freaking missed it. Other than that, it was great. Weightlifting test. The Olympic total, sort of. 2 attempts at a max snatch, 2 attempts at a max clean and jerk, add the weight combined. The only problem I have, and it's the same problem everybody else had, and they are right, is that it, drama aside, 3 lifts would have been so much better.
This is our max effort strength event. Max lift strength piece. If you're going to have that, you have to give the opportunity to do that. If you only have 2 lifts, then now you're just trying to get what you think you can hit. So you aren't swinging for the fences.
Right.
So you miss. And so with 3, get what you know you can hit, go for something big, swing for the fences. Not get what you know you can get, and then I'm going to try and swing, or I'm just going to try and play it. Say all of a sudden now it's like not max effort attempt for most.
Right.
Granted, Jack Farlow's a little different like that. Whatever.
Dude, Jack Farlow.
Give me a break.
Like strike movement shoes?
I think someone said that. Yeah. Crazy.
And I put it as like the fact that he double bounced to 396 clean.
Dude.
Off of his, like everyone's like, he was getting momentum. I was like, off his toes, bro. Off his toes. It was insane.
That was nuts.
And here's the thing. That the timing was a part of it, and the windows they had to change the way they had to do it. Is like we can do a lot of different things. If I guarantee you, if you went to the coaches and the athletes, it's like, hey, listen, instead of going 20 seconds every 10, and it's going to take, how long does that take? 3.5 minutes to get back to the first place person. We're going to go 2 at a time, 30 seconds, 1 attempt. You don't get multiple attempts in the 30 seconds.
Right, totally.
Right? You get 1, 2 in the window, and after 5, that's only 2.5 minutes. So now we're coming back to a minute sooner, so you're not getting cold in between lifts, which I heard athletes were talking about. So we're going 2 at a time, every 30 seconds. And if you want drama, the drama is Olympic lifting rules. You miss, you're done. You don't get multiple shots in the 30 seconds. You get 1. There's your drama. And now you get 3 attempts, which allows you to hit something you know you can get, something you're pretty sure you can get, and then everybody's going big on the final lift.
Yeah.
That's it. There's your drama.
Like it's built into the system. You don't have to manufacture drama.
Right. It's there.
It's built in. Like there's a whole sport that does it. If that's what we do is steal from the best and make it ours, then why would we try to modify something that has already been around forever and ever and ever the way that it's been done, and then we try to just like do some weirdo tweak to it? It didn't make any sense to me.
Right. And it would have taken 15 minutes to run the whole thing.
Yeah.
2.5 minutes per round, 7.5 minutes times 2, 15 minutes.
There you go.
Or the other one was 3.5 or something per times 4. It's the same number.
Yeah.
Like, just missed.
Yep.
But, I mean, we still got some exciting things. Still got some crazy weights, even in 2 lifts. Jack Farlow is a monster. And Laura Horvath was just
phenomenal, dude.
Unstoppable.
Yeah.
Unstoppable. Okay. Now we cut to 20. How are we on?
Yes.
The fine. Fine.
Okay. Is what it is. Fine.
Got there. Test 10. 5 rounds, 7 ring muscle ups, 3 bags over the logs. Every round is basically pick a bag up, throw it over a log, 4 foot, 5 foot, 5.5. Throw, jump over, throw, jump over, throw. The last bag for men and women, 200 pounds, 125, and then carried across the finish line. This was actually my favorite test of the weekend.
Loved it. Yeah.
This is my favorite one. It was so simple, but it was like visually awesome. The things that they put in there, the 35 ring muscle ups, 7 in a row, pick up the bag, and then the log height. The fact that the log height like made it hard for people to get over or to throw it over. It was great. It was good. Classic CrossFit in a sense of just like move large loads, long distances quickly and throw some ring muscle ups in the middle of it.
Yeah, it was a what I liked about it was very CrossFit-y, of course, but it was the style of event that you couldn't or wouldn't really do in your home gym.
Mm-hmm.
But it's all elements of things that we do. So you have the strongman piece in there, which I think a lot of people have like taken the sandbag and thrown it up over their yoke or whatever they've done at their place, or they put it up on their blocks, whatever setup they have. But the way that it was set up, you're right, it was really fun to watch. I like when there are events where you get to see an athlete, like not every single athlete is running the exact same race because of their mechanical system.
Mm-hmm.
But they still have to perform, and it's just task oriented. Like, I don't care what your situation is. Here's the test, ready, go. And you do what you need to do. And I just thought that was rad. I mean, watching athletes switching where they decide to put the bag when they were running, or thinking like, okay, I got to get it on my shoulders now so that I can have my momentum as I'm running to lob it up over.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was great. It was awesome. This was one of my favorite ones.
It was, yeah. It was my favorite one. This would be the one I was like, this is the one I want to do. It looks fun. It doesn't look like overtly painful.
Which is, I think, why I like the alpaca so much. Because that one just like, oh, the onslaught.
The alpaca one were just like, okay, that's me just wanting to just beat myself into a ball, just see if I can.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, love this one. Loved it.
I thought that was fun. The bummer was, Roman coming down off the last bag and breaking his foot at the very end. Yeah. Freaking poor dude. That was a bummer. Test time. Gosh, I forgot all the critical elements going into these. We'll go through it later. 11, 8 rounds for time. P-bar traverse down and back with a pirouette in the middle, unbroken. 30 heavy double unders, and then a 18-foot sled pull with 345 and 290 on the sled. 8 rounds. The sled got closer and closer. At the halfway point, you run the rope back and do it all over again. I also loved this test in itself, but I'm looking at it as like so much pulling.
Tons.
So much shoulders and pullings.
Tons. But it was still cool.
Still cool, man. And that platform that Rogue built, which was like the smaller version what the teams were doing. I can't wait to talk about that team event. It was good. I liked it.
What was your thoughts on the P-bar?
I didn't mind it. It was a little short, just a little down and back. But like that's what this whole thing was. This whole thing was a minute per round. Just
totally.
Like Cindy. Just churn and burn. If they added anything to either or any of these, it would have overtaken the event. Like this wasn't a P-bar event, in my opinion. It wasn't a double under event. It wasn't a sled. It was like everything had its piece, and you had to be flawless in your execution and fit to be able to sustain that.
Yeah, I think I would have rather had them not turn around on the P-bar.
Okay.
Just walk forward, walk back.
What if they added dips like they did at the elevated?
I mean, they could have done that too, but then you have to sit there and judge that. And if you're wanting to keep them speed, Like if you want to not, because if they're pushing and they're going fast, then that dip is going to get, it's going to get, it's going to get messy. But if you have tape up at the end and you got to walk forward, then you got to walk back. I saw, not that the turn wasn't that big of a deal, but you see them go down. It's just kind of weird. It was kind of weird looking.
Yeah.
Well,
they all seemed to figure it out towards the end. The first turn for everybody was sketch.
Totally. Yeah. 100%.
Very sketch. But it was cool to see how they adapted in that intense environment.
Yeah.
So I didn't mind it.
Now, granted, I am much more in favor of weird movements and events happening once you have your set people that are all going to be competing. You know what I mean? Like, we don't have any more cuts. We don't have any more things like that we're going to mess up or mess around with. So I'm cool with it. I think I would have just rather to not make a weird thing be the deciding factor.
Come back?
Yeah. Just walk down, walk back.
Got it. Yeah. What about walk down and go backwards?
Yeah, walk backwards.
Oh, is that what you meant?
Yeah. Okay. So like you're facing forward the whole time. You walk all the way out. You cross the line with both hands. You have to walk all the way back.
That would have been sweet. Yeah, I would have liked that more, actually.
Yeah.
That would have been pretty cool. But isolated in an event, I really like this.
Yeah, it's cool.
The compounding, which we'll get to, of the weekend, I was like, ooh.
Yeah.
More pulling. All right, the final 21, 18, 15 EchoBike cows and thrusters. Thruster weights going 115, 135, 155, 85, 95, 105 for the women. And then a 66-foot overhead walking lunge to the finish line. We're squatting, we're pressing, we're biking. Basically everything that we haven't done in the last two tests, put it in together with just leg blast and shoulder blast and stability to the finish line. And always having a walking lunge to the end is a good way to close things out. I thought they plugged a couple holes on the last day for the final one.
Yeah, I thought this was a classic finish,
Just
a classic
final.
Finish. It's exciting. It's going to be loud. The race is going to be close. I don't even think you needed the lunge.
No, but I liked it.
See, I would rather just have everyone just like trying to haul ass across the floor to the finish.
So what if it was like just 21:15.9?
With same weights?
Same weights. Because what was happening is like they would steady on the bike, maybe take a strategic break. Because a lot of the breaks were, I have 18 or 15 coming and I got to be okay for the lunge.
Right. That's what I mean. That's why I would have rather taken the lunge out, put the emphasis on the movement and the race and the sprint. Because think about the Echo, being on the Echo bike and then doing thrusters and then sprinting.
You're right.
To the finish.
Yeah.
And how loud and exciting that would be. Now, granted, that what's cool about the lunge is you see that it's that slow build towards the end, which is allowing, like Sean to get his big one-liners in. He has plenty of time to build this thing up, as he says, whoever's coming across the line. Yeah. But that excitement race of that just explosion in that just onslaught to the end, I think would be super exciting.
Yeah, I agree.
But it's fine how it is. I'm just saying that's what I would have rather have had.
Yeah. Okay, so we have come to the end here. The main numbers I want you guys to look at, not necessarily the ones on the right: 7 monostructural, 12 weightlifting, 13 gymnastics. About par for the course for the CrossFit Games as far as distribution goes. It's not a 30-30-30 split. That's not how it works. Usually you'll end up with more weightlifting than gymnastics just because of the type of movements that are in there, but here nor there. At the end, though, I think the biggest thing that came up was the amount of pulling that was in the programming. And I ran some numbers, and I'll say this, some liberties were made here. So, for example, ring muscle-ups, I count as a pull and a push, where the push is actually the harder part of the movement, whereas bar muscle-ups are also a pull and a push, where the pull is a harder part. That being said, I put some numbers together I didn't know how to quantify reps for biking, for the run, right? Even the double unders I excluded a bit, but I did keep in ski and row cows. There's about 922 repetitions at the games. 499 of them were pulling specific.
Yeah.
54%. Now, 372 of them were pressing, 40%. Now, the pulling movements, I had pig, chest to bar, toes to bar, pull over, legless, kettlebell clean, ski erg, bar muscle ups, dumbbell snatch, rower, snatch from the floor, clean from the floor, ring muscle ups, sandbag cleans, because you had to clean it to pick it up and carry it in the log test, and then a sled pull. On the pressing, I had pig, but keep in mind, it's a very minimal part of that, but I put it in there. For wall ball shots, I put the throw, minimal part of that. Freestanding handstand push-ups, there's only 16 of them. Handstand walk sections were 4. The kettlebell press portion of the clean and jerk, I think, is actually probably a bit more difficult, fatiguing than the clean, so that gets a nod there. Bar muscle-up lockout I put in there, but again, that's a half rep. Burpees I put in there, 2 jerks, ring muscle-up lockout, sandbag push over the log, P-bar traverse, thruster press out, and then the lockout on the lunge. Now, the one thing you'll notice there is that a lot of the pulling movements were isolated, direct movements that had only had pulling in them. Where the pressing, about 50% were like partial.
Half, yeah.
Half and half. So even the numbers where 54% and 40%, give or take, is a big discrepancy. The importance of those movements is also a big discrepancy. Right? I think how many isolated pressing movements we had? We had the jerk, burpees, kettlebell press, freestanding handstand push-ups, and a handstand walk.
Yeah.
Those are isolated pressing movements.
Which is not very much.
And they're not that difficult. The most difficult ones out there are probably the lockout on the ring muscle-ups and the kettlebell presses.
To the kettlebell.
And the press on the thrusters too, sorry.
Yeah.
But pig flip, like, that's a high, I'd say, calorically dense pull. Chest to bar pull-ups, the legless rope climbs, those 6, kettlebell cleans, bar muscle-ups, dumbbell snatch, not so much, sandbag cleans, like the sled pulls. It's tough. It's a lot.
Look at the, what I thought was interesting was we did pull-ups. We did chest to bar pull-ups. Mm-hmm. We did toes to bar. We did bar muscle-ups. We did ring muscle-ups. We did legless rope climb. It's like every single, well, and then pullovers this year too.
Yep.
Every single possible pulling gymnastic movement that we have, we did.
Yep.
Like there's always been like, I'm surprised we didn't have bar muscle-ups. I'm surprised we didn't do, I mean, I wouldn't think a lot of times we would even be doing pull-ups necessarily, you know, because we've done so many like in the open and the quarters and the semis or whatever. But we literally, the entire list, like we emptied the list of all of our gymnastic pulling elements. And that's not even talking about the weightlifting pulling movements. That's all of it. I mean, it was very skewed to that one side without a doubt.
It was very pull heavy. Very pull heavy.
Yeah.
What I put down here? 7, 12, 13 between monostructural weightlifting, gymnastics. What did I have in here? Oh, I put the weightlifting movements we had. So let's go back to the barbell complaint.
Okay.
Weightlifting movements at the CrossFit Games. Pig flip. Heavy. Pull from the ground, pull through the middle, press overhead. Wall ball shots. Squat, press, light, higher volume. Sled push from alpaca. Heavy, heavy, heavy. Legs and some upper body interference, depending on which you put your arms, which were supposed to be down. If you put them up here, you did it wrong. But heavy sled push. Heavy kettlebells, clean and jerk. Heavy sandbag squats. Light, fast dumbbells. Heavy barbells, clean and jerk and snatch. heavy, I would say moderate sandbag to over the logs. Say moderate 150 for 4 rounds in the heavy one.
Totally. They're cleans.
Right? Moderate sandbag cleans and carries. Heavy sled pulls, and then moderately heavy barbell thrusters. So we have pig, med ball, sled push, kettlebell, sandbag squat, dumbbell snatch, barbell clean and jerk, sandbag clean, sandbag carry, sled pull, and a barbell thruster. Tell me what we couldn't accomplish without a barbell in every one of those tests. Tell me what we didn't do. We lifted heavy, we cleaned, and we clean and jerked, and we barbell cycled. Thrusters are barbell cycling.
I think the difficulty that people have to understand with that is it's not a pure number that they can go and sit in their gym and also go, okay, well, I can lift that bar at that weight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, when you don't have the exact metrics like that, it makes people think that piece was missing. Even though, like you said, I mean, there was all kinds of legs and pulling and driving and posterior chain work and glute work and strength and power and explosiveness and all of the things that we do when we have barbell cycling on there, just not a ton of barbell cycling.
Right. But we cycled sandbag squats.
Right.
We cycled dumbbells. We cycled kettlebells. We cycled a lot of
totally
heavy objects. And strength, defined by CrossFit, is the productive application of force. And we define weightlifting in CrossFit as you moving an external load. And we did that in spades at the games this year. Yeah. Spades at the games this year. Just because we didn't do it with a barbell does not mean the programming was bad or strength wasn't tested or the strong guys got outed. No, they did not. How many times did we say heavy, 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 heavy? There's only 2 light things. That was wall ball shots and dumbbell snatches, and those were done in 60 or more reps.
Yeah.
It was tested. We tested pretty much every monostructural movement except swimming in different domains. We went long, intense, sustained fatigue on a bike. We did a 5K run. We did short 400-meter sprints within this. We did row. I mean, the row was a high-intense, sustained effort. The ski was a high-intense, sustained effort. The echo bike, not as much. But double unders, like those were heavy double unders. Those things had to be done unbroken. We tested way more elements. And then in gymnastics, the only thing we did is we skewed way too more heavy into the pulling. But we tested a lot. Time frames is another one to think about. We went 40 plus to start the day. We had a sub 7 in test 2, 11 to 13 minutes in test 3, sub 5 in test 4. Oh, shit, that was the wrong one. I'm reading the wrong one. Sorry. I pressed the wrong button. Hold on.
I think you have like 3 that are like under 6 minutes. You have 7 between that 10 to 15-ish, and you have 2 that are that 20 plus.
Yeah. Over here. Okay, let me bring this back up. Sorry. Okay, 40-minute cap, 40 minutes, 14 to 16 minutes. Okay, we have one of those. We have a sub 5 minute, so we have one of those. 13 to 15 minutes, 2 of those. Sub 5 minutes again, 2 of those. 8 to 9 minutes, that's another category. 17 to 19 minutes. Okay, now we have that mid one. 7 to 9:30, back in. So now we have basically 2, 2, 2, 1, and 1. Heavy day. 7 to 10 minutes again. 8 to 10 minutes again. 13 to 15 again. I mean, the time domains are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Pretty good balance there. As far as modalities, test 1, monostructural. Test 2, we had a weightlifting, gymnastics, weightlifting as far as different movements are concerned. Test 3, 4 different gymnastics movements. Test 4, weightlifting, gymnastics, weightlifting. Test 5, monostructural weightlifting. Test 6, weightlifting, monostructural gymnastics. Test 7, monostructural. Test 8, gymnastics, monostructural gymnastics. Test 9, weightlifting. Test 10, gymnastics, weightlifting, gymnastics. We've already had a WGW, so that balances out there. Test 11, weightlifting, monostructural gymnastics. And then test 12, monostructural weightlifting. There was a decent blend in there too. All right. With all that, Bill, it has come to this. What is your Element 26 thumb tape review?
Okay. There were some events that I just absolutely fell in love with. I loved the ski bag event. I loved alpaca. I love the muscle up log. I love the echo thruster final. Even with the lunge thing in there, I still think it was a good event. Um, the inverted medley, I had all kinds of issues with it. Where it was placed, the elements that were in it. That was I don't even want to say it was a foul tip. It was to me, it was for gymnastics of what it was trying to do. I think it was a complete strikeout. I just think it was way over the line to one side, trying to hit some other things. And for me, we went into circus land on that one. And so I was bummed that like that was an event that, went out to the world to show everybody what we do. Cause that's not what we do. I don't think. I liked the P-bar event. I thought that was good. I really, the rope for the most part, these guys, I mean, missing ropes it shouldn't even be an issue for these guys, even the heavy ones. I liked watching the sled. I thought the sled pull was fun. I will say that Roman wasn't the only person at the games that was doing single-legged double unders. That happened in the Masters for a handful of people.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, so they were athletes.
And the adaptive.
And the adaptive.
Fucking bosses when it comes to those.
So totally. So I mean, it was cool seeing Roman and him getting all that hype for all that stuff. And this is no shot on Roman at all. I mean, he as an athlete, I think, especially when you're up that high in the standings, there wouldn't even be a question other than to go out there and do what he was doing. So there was a lot of that kind of fun stuff to see. But as far as the programming goes, I think that it was missing. I like that it had the moderate squats in those weird areas, like the sled push, the sled pulls, even driving that way. Even with the bike, the way that it was blowing up everyone's legs was more than just a classic, spin bike type of thing. But there was a lot of heavy pressing that was missing, obviously, as we already talked about. So we know how much of the gymnastic pulling there was. We know how much of the weightlifting pulling there was. I really feel, even with Dave coming back in, and I don't know what the changes were that he made, what it looked like before to what it looked like afterwards. But I still feel like that thread isn't there yet. There still seems like there were events that were kind of created in a vacuum rather than what's the layout look like. So there were a lot of things that I really liked. There were a couple swings and misses. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give it a 1.25.
Okay.
I think there was a lot of enjoyment, and I think a lot of the race itself, and this is what we were talking about in the very beginning, the race itself, the emotion of the race, the stories that were happening made the event and the programming way better than what I still think it looks like on paper. Because I still think on paper there's some stuff that's like, nah, I can't do it. I loved what happened, but I cannot see, like, I can't get my teeth and bite in that one. So and I actually was going to say just one thumb, but I'll go 1.25 because there was a lot of really good things. And I know that I'll call it a rebuilding year.
Okay.
And go with that.
I can't remember what I did for last year. I can't remember. So when I first looked at this, I was like at least a 1 or like at most a 1.
Yeah.
Saw it on paper and I was like, man, this all looks weird and going there, but I'm always trying to and I'm not the best at this. So it's like, hey, let's just wait and see.
Yeah.
React. Let's just, watch it unfold. And how things unfolded, like the ski bag, man, that won me over big time. The interval one, okay.
Yeah.
I think that was like almost a filler test.
Yeah.
In a little bit, but it was needed. It didn't, knock my socks off. I'm with you in the gymnastics skill medley with all the buildup and all the hype. And I think the hype buildup is giving me a unfair judgment of the test itself. If you just threw this out there, like, okay, whatever. Right. But like all that buildup I was like, cool. I thought it was in the wrong place. I think they had a missed opportunity there. I didn't mind there was no swimming. Obviously, I made that point earlier, pretty clear. The amount of barbells that were in there, fine. I think it was just a perception that there wasn't something being tested in there. I love the pig chipper, like all the classic CrossFit tests in here, the pig chipper, alpaca, muscle up logs was great. I would have liked to see something a little different for Helena. At the end of the day, I think we had decent balance as far as time domains. I thought no one ran away with it because they were strong or gymnastics oriented or this or that. I think everybody got tested. I thought the programming to each cut was good. And I'll give it a 1.4.
Ooh.
1.4. I really like.
You don't want to go a 1.37?
I'm not going to go 1.37 or 1.42, but a 1.4, 1.5. Little things in the way, scheduling of events throughout the weekend and certain movements and certain things. But I thoroughly enjoyed the CrossFit Games. I really enjoyed watching all the programming. The stories, as you said, were made up. Like, I'm just glad we got to talk about the freaking games.
Yeah.
Right? Instead of bullshit like sleds
falling apart
and leaderboard and V-ups and weights being like, even the 5K, like who fucking cares? Like whatever. Right. So I'm so happy it all worked out. Boz, Dave, you guys get these 1.4 for me. CrossFit Games, hell of a season. But yes, let's get better.
Let's get better.
All right, team. Thanks for joining us. See you guys next week.
Bye, guys.